Hello, everyone, and welcome back to day 2 of KeyShot World 2021. Thanks for joining us. I'm Derek Cicero. I'm VP of Products here at Luxion. I'll be your host for the next 2 days. In case you missed yesterday, we had some fantastic presentations. First up, we had Shane Spence from Shane Spence Design, and he really had a unique presentation talking about how he uses, basically kind of creates his own client to learn KeyShot and to really kind of hone his skills in. Really unique and fun presentation. After that, we had our own Brooke Harrington, one of the creative specialists here at Luxion. And she talked about the Envoy project, which is a really unique project the team here put together to really talk about how to use KeyShot from sketch to shelf. So it talked about the design process, ideation, into marketing, into sales. And what's really cool about it is they built a whole web page where you can go and pull down the assets. You can kind of reverse engineer things, play with things, sort of see how we did it, but give you a hands-on idea of how to play with some of these AR, VR, and configurator tools. So that was a great presentation. And we followed up with Mike James from Thomas Burke, who talked about the configurator and how he uses it with Specialized, the bike manufacturer, to make design decisions. So in case you missed it, all 3 of those presentations are on our YouTube channel. So definitely check that out. All the presentations that we do are going to be on YouTube. So you can check them on Zoom. There's a live YouTube stream. And if you missed the timing, you can always watch it back later. But we're going to give you some really great stuff. We had a cool giveaway. We had a GoPro Hero 8. Melissa K was the winner of that. So congratulations to Melissa. We'll put this in the mail very shortly. Thank you to GoPro for that wonderful prize. Today, we're giving away a KeyShot 10 Pro license. So that is brought to you by the fine folks at Render Weekly and Design Burger. So thank you to them. If you don't know them already, they are fantastic Instagram accounts that are really great for designers. One, to get inspired. They have just constantly great images, but they also run a bunch of really cool render contests, sometimes with us, sometimes with others, to really give you these kind of cues to try different things and experiment with KeyShot. And so really fun. So definitely follow them. I'll also give us a plug for our own Instagram channel. It's KeyShot 3D. We are nearing 100,000 users. So if we get to 100,000, the 100,000th person is going to get a special prize. I know what you're asking. Is that special prize a KeyShot 2020 hand sanitizer? It's not. It's going to be a way better prize than that. But so please join our Instagram. Definitely check that out. And for user number 100,000, you're going to get a prize. It's going to be pretty cool. So today we have 3 more fantastic sessions coming for you, again at 10 noon and 2 p.m. Pacific. First up are the wonderful people at KeyShot Studios, Tim Feyer and Brad Edelman. If you watched our intro video and you saw some of that great work in there, then you've seen some of the work of KeyShot Studios. These guys put the power in Power User. They're fantastic. They're going to talk about their process, how they use KeyShot, all the different ways they interact with clients is going to be great. And also, obviously, they're a full service agency. So if you need any help with your visualization, you can always reach out to them after the show. You got to let them finish the presentation first. At noon, we're going to have Matt Hainsley from Bucktail Design doing Unboxing Your Render. I'm really excited for this one because he's talking about packaging and how much the packaging and the branding of the product has really informed that brand identity and how you can use KeyShot in that packaging. He's done work for Peloton and Hasbro. So that's going to be a fantastic presentation. And then at 2 p.m., Frank Teneski from Kids 2 is going to be physical to digital. So he's going to be talking about using KeyShot to replace photography. So I think we kind of have all the bases covered here, all the great ways you can use KeyShot. I'm excited. Reminder, hashtag KeyShot World on social media. I hope you get inspired by what you're seeing. Post some ideas, post some things out there. We want to share all the cool stuff people are creating. So please hit us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And then one last thing, we are going to have a 15-minute Q&A at the end of each session. So if you have questions, you can answer them. You can ask them in the Q&A. We'll have folks on staff answering questions. And at the end, we'll pick some questions out from the audience, and we will share them with the presenters and have them answer them in real time. So with that, I'm excited. You're excited. Let's get started. KeyShot Studios, take it away.
Hi, we're KeyShot Studios. This is Tim. Brad, you want to?
Hello, and Brad Edelman from KeyShot Studios. Sorry, we're just changing our optimization there. There we go.
Brad didn't want to talk until I had that switched over. Yeah, so hi. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time to spend the next hour with us. Hopefully, we can show you some things and go from there. For some reason, I don't want to go to my next slide. Okay. So we are a studio that uses KeyShot Studios. We started the studio, what, 2 years ago?
Yep, just about 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago. And the purpose why we wanted to create KeyShot Studios is Brad and I, we love this software, and we work with other companies through our careers, and we just really wanted to have a place where we can help KeyShot users as a whole, a place where they can come to ask questions, or if you need any type of consulting, we can go in and see how you're using KeyShot within your organization, and see how maybe we can connect different points from marketing and connecting marketing to design, and just kind of really help push through KeyShot through the whole process. So I'm sorry, guys. This is I'm not used to talking to just a screen. Brad, you want to say anything right now?
No, that's really kind of how we started the whole thing. It's we've both been working in KeyShot, right from the beginning versions of the software, and always gravitated towards it. It's just a great tool to make visualization just fast. It was so easy to use, intuitive. My background I came into this industry from traditional photography, so I'm used to making pictures. I'm always looking through a camera, that sort of scenario, and KeyShot just allowed me to still feel like a photographer. The way I handle light, angle, lensing, all of that stuff. So, and you can see it. Any other tool, it can be very difficult to get there.
And this is just a few samples of work that we've done throughout the years. And as you can see, it's a big variety. So, I mean, KeyShot can be used with architecture, to cars, to water and boats, to anything, very small product to very large pieces. And I mostly used it in marketing, same with Brad. My background's heavy in automotive, and we were able to use KeyShot within the automotive sector to produce tons of content for marketing. So, Brad and I, we come from different areas of the marketing sector, but with our two experiences, we bring a lot to the table. So when working with us, we like to understand, obviously, first the client, what your ask is. We ask lots of questions, and then from there we'll come up with a plan of how we should execute whatever the deliverable may be. How we're different from other studios is we don't just produce content for customers or clients. We also do consulting, so we can really go into an organization and do more of a high-end type of training if there's certain areas that you're looking to get into. Brad and I, we can do training sessions and just really do a deep dive in certain areas to show how you can really use KeyShot to its full potential. Another thing that's different with us is if you are a KeyShot user within your organization, and we do work with you, we give back all our working files. So the KSPs, anything that we've developed for you, we give that back at the end of the job. So you'll start to create your own library. So in the future, if there are any updates, you actually have the files. Your team can do any updates, or you can come back to us and we can do the updates to whatever needs to be done. So a lot of companies, they have an outside house do some of their marketing needs, but they don't get the working files back. So next time you have an update, you have to pretty much recreate the wheel over again.
Yeah, and also too, we like to connect it. You know, a lot of time design divisions are using KeyShot, and their marketing divisions don't really know what that is and how to utilize that. So a lot of times we help bridge that gap between the design groups and marketing groups within inside of companies.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting how many companies we talk with where the design group is using KeyShot heavily, and then when it gets into the marketing group, they are pretty much recreating what design's already done. And so, you know, there's some efficiencies there that we can show how you're doing all this work up front with the design of the product, and everything looks exactly how you want it, how that can be pushed into the marketing area and then reuse those assets. It just saves time and money in the long run. And again, we also not only do we do the CG from scratch, we also can take products and put it inside existing photography. So this is an interesting image here. Out of these three products, one of them is a CG replacement, and that would be this camera right here. There was a different device on this jacket, and we put this new device on top. It, you know, to cloth, to leathers, you know, we get right in there, and our end goal is to simulate exactly what that piece of material would look like in real life. We're going to get to a typical way we work with the client in 1 second. And this was a strip. This was a photograph, and we put this can of Pepsi inside there. So what we want to talk about is a one scenario of how we work with the client from a start of a project. And we're going to talk about it was a Motorola Solutions project. It was the MXP 600 radio. So the very first thing that we like to do, obviously, is talk with the client, see exactly what they're looking for, what type of content they're wanting. Is it still imagery? Is it animations? Is it 360s? Once we have a better understanding of what they're needing, we look at what can we do to cover multiple areas, but rendering or producing content once. So, for example, let's say they have this new product coming out, and they want 20 different angles of it for because they're going to be using it in Amazon or in some other area for selling purposes. Well, instead of producing 20 separate images, which we do in the end, how about we do a 360? So now you're going to get two things. You can get a 360 spin, and then you also can pull out those 20 images that you wanted for single images for the website as for your SKUs. So we do look at things of that nature, and we will suggest different options to save money, just to create the content once, but use it over and over again.
And also for brand consistency. So, you know, it's no matter where it's going, it's always going to be brand consistent.
Yep. So once we have an idea of what they're looking for, we obviously need CAD data. Of course, we can do modeling if there are modeling needs. We do have a team here that does modeling, so we can do any extra modeling that needs to be done. But usually what we hope to get from the client is the CAD data, a Cmf documentation that explains the different material breakouts on the product. And with that CMF, there's a lot of information that we pull from that. So, for example, you know, anything in green is a black plastic, and it has this type of a texture on it. And if it's a Moltec texture, that's even better, because then we can go to the Moltec website and pull that texture from the site. So we're using one-to-one textures. If it is a unique texture, we hopefully get some photo reference of it, and we'll create our own maps for the product.
Yeah, the CMF is just a great document. Most companies usually produce this as they're producing products, you know, anyway. And they come in all different, you know, shapes and sizes and all that sort of stuff. But the information you can get out of it is just crucial on really creating a photo accurate digital twin of the product.
Yeah, and And then we start creating our different maps, because not only does the CMF come over, if there's any label art that needs to be on the product, we ask for that. And then we either use that artwork, or that's the artwork we use to create different masks. So we can create those materials inside KeyShot. And this is just a little example of just a couple of them that we had to create for this particular product. And then once we have that all put together, we like to do live sessions when possible with the client. And obviously, if it's live sessions isn't possible, we can do screenshots of the product, or we can send over a configurator where they can use Key Viewer and look at things. But we really prefer that live session, because we can get a lot of questions answered right away, so we can keep the process moving. And within that that live session, we'll do angle studies with the client. The reason why you see this in a clay form, a lot of times, when you're doing these angle studies, if you have all the materials on there, sometimes people get caught up like, oh, that material doesn't look right with that angle. That's not what we want. Right now, we're just looking at what angle shows the product off the best. So to eliminate a lot of that distractions, we like to do an angle study with just the clay version of the product. So you can just really look at the lines and the design of the product for the angles.
And based on what they're asking for, if there's a specific part on the product that they want to feature with this angle or that angle, we can really kind of hone in on those things. What's most important. So, and changing camera lenses and angles and views that allow us to sort of tell those stories.
Exactly. And another thing is, once those angles are agreed upon, that's when we would go back and do any finish type lighting to really hone in on that shot. So when you do an angle study and it's already all colored up, when you're rotating the model around, the lighting changes, and a lot of times it's not a nice complementary lighting scheme for that particular shot. So that's why we get rid of all the materials.
The key thing to remember is lighting is always angle dependent. We're always adjusting lighting for whatever angle that you're doing.
But I would like to say, though, where Brad is absolutely right. Every angle is different. You can have an overall lighting scheme. And after we're done with a couple of these slides, we're going to open up a real KeyShot session, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more, because there is a consistent look that we need to achieve, and we found a nice way to keep that, but also have the flexibility to add some lights to add more interest. So these are just the product now, all materialized up in these different angles.
Yeah, these were angles that they chose, that they wanted to feature on all of the key features of.
So when talking with them, we knew right from the beginning that they were going to want everything on white, or transparent, I should say, transparent backgrounds, because they're going to be taking these images and then putting them into their own design. Could be brochures, websites, things of that nature. So that what's important here is we knew it's going to be on white. It could be on all different colored type of backgrounds. So we had to light this in a way where it looks good on black or a dark color, and it also reads well on a white or lighter type backgrounds. But knowing that up front helps the process of getting the lighting down where you need it. Because if you light with just black as your background, it looks beautiful on black, but the moment you turn it to like a lighter background, a lot of times the product looks totally different. You lose highlights and those little subtleties of light wrapping on your product. So knowing up front how it's going to be used helps with lighting.
Yeah, especially these products being
Black.
majority black, it's very difficult.
Very difficult. This is just close up showing you, when we do zoom up and do, if they want close up images, that texture is in there with great detail. And then also they sent over all the accessories. So we build all the accessories at the same time. We don't create any imagery until we have the digital twin bought off. So the process is they give us the CAD data, we get the CMF, we start creating the materials and applying it onto the radio. We'll do live sessions. Is this correct? Is that correct? Is this material too rough, too smooth? We fine tune all that. And once the digital twin is bought off, we technically do not have to go back to that digital twin to tweak anything. Now we can go right into lighting and using that digital twin in different areas of marketing.
More accessories.
More accessories. And then here is all those images that we created for them. They put it inside their sales brochures. And what's really nice here is there's a cohesive look to everything. And there's a brand. And no matter where you look at this product, if it's in a catalog or if it's on the web or if it's on social media, the images are all created in the same lighting, in the same look. They don't look like two different people created them.
Yes, for Motorola, it's very, very crucial to have brand consistency. So no matter where any of the images are going out, whether it's social media, Facebook, anything, print, you know, any media, all the imagery came from the original digital twin.
I mean, look at that. This image was created once, but just the designers put different backgrounds or different messaging, and they have a whole new marketing campaign possibly. So you don't have to recreate that image over and over again. So it's just a great use of content where you would normally pay over and over for these different layouts. I also like to mention that when we do create imagery or animations, we create it at a fidelity where it can be used for print or it can be used in social media. So we like to, like I said, do things once. So for example, these images are done at 5K. So I know if they do decide to print a brochure, that it will still hold up for printing purposes, but they also can take it and use it for social media. And so you can always shrink the image. We just can't, make it bigger because it gets a little soft. And then once that digital twin is created, we talked about it earlier. Here is the original photograph from another device. They really liked this picture, but they wanted this new RCM. So we had the digital twin already created. It was just a matter of camera matching and then lighting and just fitting it inside the photo. So here's the original photo, and then here's the CG version of it.
So yeah, it all started from the same digital twin. So once that was created.
Yep. Yes, we didn't have to recreate that digital twin. It was already made. So and it saves time too. I remember back in the day, back in the early days of CG, we would have created a whole nother scene just for this shot. And then we would have another scene created for some other shot and another scene created for another purpose. Now doing it this way, creating the digital twin as a whole, now we don't have to recreate that over and over again.
And it's also a configurator too. So if there's any other accessories or anything that they wanted on that radio, it would be there in that shot. So we would have it all in one scene.
And if there's updates in the middle of the year, we don't have to update a whole file from scratch. We just got to update whatever parts have been changed. Lighting's already done, and then we can share that file back with the customer if they use KeyShot. So we like to work as a partnership. And then once digital twin is created, we also can go into video. So we do video also. And here's a video created from that digital twin. So that's basic our process. And we use this process with every client, from from car clients to Motorola to watches to whatever. The process is the same. Sure, there might be a little bit differences here and there, but the process is still the same. So for example, if we're going to do an animation, that's the only thing they're looking for. Well, we still have to create the digital twin first. And then we have to create the storyboards and then do the final content. So the digital twin is key in all of this. What I want to show you now is this product inside KeyShot and how we set it up for use. So here in KeyShot, we have our master scene. And this master scene, let me turn off the lights for a minute. This master scene will have, in this particular case, is just the radio and the accessories that go on it. And so we put that all in here. And if I turn all these on, we have just there. I got to do a 360 here. We have everything we need to create content or imagery for this particular product. Once we have this completed, let me go inside this a little bit here. For example, these keys, I'm going to double click on the keys. We have a on version, and then we also have an off version. Same with these keys down here. We have an on version and an off. So, hey, KeyShot, we need such and such images. Okay, great. Which screen do you want on? And is the keyboard on? Is the keyboard off? How do you want to see it displayed? And we don't have to recreate that over and over again. We just need to go in here. We double click on the keys. Oh, we want that on. We turn the lights on. This has already been pre-approved from the digital twin creation. So we know that's accurate. And now we can go right into creating content. So anytime we have screens that could change, we try to add if they had the screens at that time, add all those screens in here. If there are any power buttons, we like to have an on version and an off version, just so all that is there. We don't have to think about it over and over again on creating the material. Once we have this bought off on, what we do is we break this down into separate pieces. And this is going to do two things for us. One, it just kind of keeps everything a little bit easier to view. So for example, here's our radio, and the only thing that's on the radio layer is anything that's on no matter what accessory, whatever, this is always on the radio. And then from here, we can build the different configurations. So, oh, you know what they want the 120 antenna. And that antenna is right here. Let me turn the lights on, so maybe a little bit brighter. There we go. No, we don't want the 120. We need the 60. So we have that all inside there. Now we're going to look at the back end of this. You got to remember to do it that way. Okay, what battery do we want? We want the high capacity battery. So we can turn that on. We want the high capacity. Well, we want a belt clip on there. And you know what? This is going to be sold with the leather case. And where is my leather case? I always have. Where it is? Where's that?
You're on it.
I was on it? Oh, there it is. And then they want that with the leather case. So that's how we keep things separate. So now if that leather case gets updated, all we have to do is update this layer. Everything else is where it should be. When we created each one of these, we have all the materials linked. So if I change a material on one, it changes it on all of them if it's being shared across. This is where the lighting I want to talk about earlier about the lighting. How we like to work is we want to light the product in a 360 type environment first. And when we do that, we actually rotate the product. So basically the lighting is the product is being lit consistently throughout 360 spin. If we rotated this by environment, you would have a dark side of the lighting, and then you would have a light side if you're moving the camera around. So we do this so we can get a buy-off on the overall look of the camera. And now what we would do in an angle study is say, okay, I want this camera, you know what, we want this at like a 3/4 with a high elevation. Actually, yeah, with a higher elevation or something like this, right? What we do here is we would save this camera off. We'll call it camera 1. And now I'm going to use the same lighting, but I'm just going to duplicate it, call it camera 1, duplicate. Make sure you call these the same name as what your camera is, because this is going to, right, if you only have 1 or 2, it's no big deal. You can keep track of it. But when you start having like 20 different camera angles, you're going to want to make sure, okay, if I'm on camera 2, camera 1, I need to make sure my environment's camera 1, you know, so on and so forth. So I'm always going to be picking camera 1. So now I can look at this saying, you know what, maybe we want a little bit more light over in this area. And now I'm using the basic dome, the basic lighting, and I'm just going to add a little extra light to an area. So let's just make that 10. You know what, I want a red light. This is the red light district. And I want that over in this area after I hit the right button. There we go. And then we would light this just for that angle. But if the client wanted a 360, we would go back to our main lighting, to our main 360 camera. Let's say this was the hero angle. And now when we do the 360, the lighting is going to be consistent. And that goes for if they wanted a 360 of the whole product. Oh, we want 360 of just a leather case. Well, we're going to use the same 360 with the same lighting. So if those two were side by side on a website, they would look exactly the same lighting wise. And that helps with that cohesive branding look for the product.
We also use studios a lot too to help keep things organized. Keep your environment, keep your camera, keep whatever model set. You can create studios. So,
and another tip I like to share is I like to keep my lights in its own file or its own model set. So if I'm going to be adding any physical lights to this, if it's an IES light or a ambient, what are the other lights called? I had a brain fart. Spotlights, whatever. Anytime I'm doing any physical lights, I like to put that in its own model set. So I know, oh, you know what? I want to mess with the lighting, my physical lights. I know exactly where to go. It's going to be in my light model set. So now I can go in here and adjust accordingly. So I can go edit material. Oh, I want this to be orange or yellow. I want that to be a higher intensity. So now it saves time because I don't have to try to go through my whole scene tree trying to find out where all my lights are at. So I like to keep them all in one little area. And I can turn them on, turn them off, depending on the situation. Once we have the angles, we have the lighting, we have everything buy off, we want to hit render, right? When we render, we like to render with a lot of passes. And I'm not saying that we're going to use all these different render passes, but at least they're going to be there in case we do want to use them for a little extra pop or zing. So what I did here is I rendered an image and I rendered with these passes. And what I like to do is just kind of go over how we use these and why we use these. Let me pause this because, you know, we need the power. All right, it's paused. Great. So we go into Photoshop. Here's an image that was rendered out, and I have also rendered the passes that come with it. I didn't render all of them, but these are the ones we use the most. So we have a clown pass, which is very wonderful because you can do quick cutouts to do any retouching very quickly. So now I don't have to sit there and cut masks all day. We have, what is this, the raw? We have the raw pass. Don't use that very often, but it's there. The AO, Ambient Occlusion pass, use it all the time. I'll show you that one. What is this? In shadow, don't use that very often. Refraction, we'll use that especially with diamonds or anything with glass. Very beneficial. Reflection we will certainly use. GI, if they're this scene doesn't have any GI because there's nothing else around it. But if you're doing an interior, GI is a good one to have. Lighting, once in a while I'll use. Diffuse I don't usually use. And I use this one all the time. And there's a little trick I want to show you with this. Now, how I use these is not the only way you can use these layers. But this is how we use them for the most part. So when we first get our image, if it's on an alpha like this, what I like to do is make that our main RGB into a group, and then I will place a mask on top of it. Okay. Next, I usually take my reflection pass and you slide that into that grouping. And as you can see, it turns this all black. So what do I want to do with this pass? I want to keep the white pixels and I want to get rid of the black pixels. How do you do that? Well, in Photoshop, if you go to any of this section, which would be lighter, screen, color dodge, things of that nature, that gets rid of the dark pixels and leaves the lighter pixels. So I usually use screen. So if I turn that on and off, you can see that, especially through here, you get a little bit more highlight in certain areas. It brings out this the mesh inside the radio, but obviously this is all blown out. The screen's way too bright, which is totally fine because if we put a mask on that, and we'll go to our clown pass, and I select this area. All right, looks like it just selected that. Perfect. And I'm going to mask out just that area. Now I'm using the rest of the reflection pass on the product, except I really didn't want it in this area, so I got rid of it. Okay, that's the reflection pass. Now, once this is on there, you can keep it at 100. You can make the opacity so it's not as strong. It's really dependent on you and how you want to use it. Another way of controlling how bright that pass is you can add another we'll say levels, and we're going to connect the levels to that layer, and now I can control how much light is going to be coming out of that pass. So that's other ways of controlling how much of the that pass will be. Another one we use is the ambient occlusion. Now the question is, what do I want? What's the purpose of this pass? This pass helps with all the little areas where you don't get the shadows from a raw render, or you do have shadows but just not strong enough. This kind of helps set in some of the creases.
Yep.
Is that a good way of explaining it?
It helps define the product edges.
So what do I want to keep from this pass? I want the dark color, the dark pixels. So again, I'm going to go and apply it, and I'm going to go to multiply. Now what multiply does, it gets rid of all the white pixels and leaves all the dark pixels. So now when I turn this on and off, let me zoom up in here. I'm going to turn it off. You can see that you start getting a little bit of shadowing in these little areas of the product. Now, some of it's too heavy. And again, you can go through with mask and just brush some of it out, or you can do an overall opacity on it. And you just want a hint of a little bit on there, and you control it with your opacity. Okay, lighting is the same way. So again, sometimes this pass works, it gives you a little extra something. Sometimes it doesn't. So, but it's free. When you render it, it's free. So might as well render with it.
And you never know when you might need it.
Yep, exactly. With this one, again, I want to get rid of the black. So I'm going to stay in this area in Photoshop. So we have screen that we could use. We can do color dodge. There are different things. And again, that obviously 100% is too much. And you just want to tone it down and just bring it up just a little bit. So that helps with the numbers on the keypad a little bit more, especially these smaller ones. So that's how you kind of use these passes. And again, once it's on there, you can put a mask. You can take away or add as much as you want with that particular mask. Now, the question is, what do I do with this pass? Now, there's different ways to use this. You can go into the different channels to pull the colors that you need for highlights. I don't do that. This is the way I use it, and this is my big tip for the day. So, on this particular product, if I go in here, I'm going to turn these off. Let's just say, you know what? I like what's happening in here, but I'm losing the definition of this keypad. You know, is there a ledge here? Isn't there a ledge? Things of that nature. I can go in Photoshop and then cut all these areas out and lighten them, or I can try to get it off of this normals pass. So how that works is, first what I want to do is select the area that I want to manipulate. I have this clown pass, so I'm going to click the orange. Now that's selected. I'll turn on my normals pass, make that selection. And if you go into select color range, what I want to do is I want to pick pixels in this greenish color area, right? Now that I've clicked on that, I can make it a little bit fuzzier so it spreads out the selection. I can make it more condensed, so I just want just mostly that area. And then the range is depending on where you selected, it will just do that little bit area. But I want the whole thing, and I want something of this nature, right? I'm gonna hit OK. Now what happens, I'm selecting just those pixels that you see in white there. And now if I add either levels or a curve, I'm gonna do levels. Very quickly, just add a little bit of light there. And now I just added a little bit of light on the top surface of these buttons. So that's really, you can actually recolor your whole image using this normals pass and have a different lighting on the shot. So that's my big thing with this normals pass. If you want to pull out different highlights and not take the time to cut out paths, you can just make sure this is selected and then just select on a color that you're wanting. Let's say we want a little bit more intense on the side here. So we're going to pick these red pixels, a little bit brighter. And now that that's selected, we can increase that. And if I have this as a solid background, turn that on and off. You see we did a nice little highlight on the side of the product without creating a bunch of cutting masks.
Yeah, in this particular case, the client really wants to see all of those little facets and features. And sometimes this is a really quick and easy way to really accent them without having to break geometry apart or whatnot and try to get it in a render. So we can actually go back after the fact and just tweak it here.
Yep, and that's, this is really what we wanted to show you guys and talk about. And again, KeyShot Studios is here to help with content creation, to help with workflows within your organization, any type of training. If you want special training or even basic training, we can go and do all that. We're just here to help, and we're always here for any. For the emails or any conversation, or if you just want to talk. We just love meeting the people. We love working with the community, and we're just excited. We just love creating imagery and content. So, I mean, this is what we do. This is what we love, and we hope we can work with you guys someday, or just create a friendship.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys. That was a fantastic presentation. This is Derek speaking again. We have some questions from the crowd. So can we go ahead and answer some of those questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. So the first question people kind of had is, obviously you're doing that work for still imagery. When you're talking about the animations, how much kind of sort of post-processing are you doing? And then where are you fitting in things like Premiere? So how much is coming out of KeyShot versus, overlaying obviously some of the more, front-end graphical elements in other products?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Most of our animation is coming out of KeyShot, and then our pipeline, our process is after we get the still imagery that we need for the animation, we go into After Effects. We compile it there. So if there's any text overlays, any type of special effects, just like what you do in Photoshop, what we do in After Effects, and then we produce the final out of After Effects, or we'll go into Premiere.
Wonderful.
There's deformations, things of that nature. Obviously, we go into a different program to do those animations, and then we import that in, and then we just connect that with whatever animations we already have that we've created in KeyShot. But we try to do all our animations in KeyShot first. There's just a few things that you can't do, and then we'll do that in another program, and then import all that data back into KeyShot. But in the end, KeyShot's doing the rendering, and then we do all our comping and post work in either Photoshop, if it's for still imagery, or After Effects, if it's video.
Wonderful. So people were asking about kind of the actual, like, so that main menu messages screen, and if you can go back to KeyShot briefly, is that a label, and kind of how are you doing that? How do you animate that if you want to sort of actually animate that that imagery?
In this particular case, it's a still image as an emissive, correct?
Are we talking about this one right here?
Yep.
Yeah, this one here is a still image. Still image. This one is an image. Sometimes what we'll do is we could take this and we would make mask for all of this, and then that's when we can control the different. If you wanted this to be a different color, like this little Z, or these numbers, if you want these numbers to be switching, that's how we would have to work that. But this particular case, this is just an image that's being projected onto a part as an emissive.
Yeah, sometimes we'll pre-build it. Let's say that clock needed to count. We would pre-build that animation in After Effects, project it back on here as a video map rather than a still image.
Yep.
Some people were asking, and I know from kind of just historical standpoint, but about the digital twin and kind of what that means. So can you maybe just kind of re-explain for folks when you say digital twin, what you mean by that?
Yeah, a digital twin. Our definition of a digital twin is your product is digitally digitally created, meaning you don't have to have the physical piece. So in the end, when our digital twin is completed, we want it to be almost 100% accurate, that when you look at it, you're like, no, wow, that's the material, that's the finish, that it looks exactly like how it should be. So now when I need to use that for content creation, there's no guesswork. We know that is correct. And what's nice about the digital twin is if there are updates, because there's always updates, right? We don't have to recreate everything over again. We just got to get the updated geometry. We swap it out, and that digital twin is still up to date. And that also is a moment in time too. So once these digital twins are created, let's say that product lifespan was only for 2 years. Well, you have a digital twin of it. You could always go back and say, oh, you know what? This design worked really well. Let's take some of this and let's take this new design. Let's combine the two. And then you can start seeing in real time what this would look like. So it helps with design too, in the design area.
Yeah, and the key is the digital twin is photographically correct. We're trying to get it as photographically correct as possible. So any render, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a render and a photograph.
One person's asking how you made the stitching. I think that's on. Is that on sort of like the leather piece there? Was that modeled?
Yeah, that's modeled. That was modeled in.
Okay.
Another way of doing that is you would have to UV map the product, and then we would put that in as we would have an opacity map in there, and then we would maybe use a displacement to push that geometry out for the stitches. But we actually just model that in the product. But let's just say, no, that brings up a great point though. But let's say they gave us the case, but they didn't have the stitching in it. What would we do? And that's basically what we would have to do. We would have to take that model. We would either UV unwrap it and then draw in the stitches. So we can either make a decision on, do we want to use just bumps, Or do we need to make a displacement map so we have physical bump to everything, so when the light hits it, it rolls? Or do we model it from scratch? And again, that's all going to be dependent on budgets, what the client's looking for, what the importance of that stitch. So all that is accounted for before making the decision how we're going to proceed.
So some people are asking, it's great. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. In terms of, obviously, you're sort of showing the render passes and kind of how they can be used in a Photoshop workflow. Some folks are sort of asking, where do you draw the line between, just getting your renders out of KeyShot versus when do you feel the need to go into Photoshop and do some of these, additional adjustments?
That's another great question. When I first started my career, I said I'd fix everything in post. This is years and years and years ago. I fix it in post. I'll fix it in post close enough. Well, the technology from then to now has come so far that you can really push the software so you don't have to do any major retouching, right? So our goal nowadays is to get everything at least between 90 and 95%. Like, okay, this is good to go. We don't have to really do any retouching. If we are retouching, it's just to enhance the image. It's not to fix the image. I hope that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We're using just those passes just to enhance the overall image itself. It's not like going in there and like really pulling this out or hiding that or fixing this. We want that digital twin to be accurate. We want our lighting to be accurate. So when we render it, it's like we could almost say, okay, we're done. Let's ship it out. We always touch everything. I think it's just the artist in us. We got to look at it. We got to do something else to it. But that's just an artist thing, that we do. But the reason why it's very important to do as little retouching fixing retouching as possible is, let's say you did a whole marketing campaign and there was 1,000 images. Let's just say there was 1,000 images that you had to do with this product. And now that product has an update. If you did the rendering and the lighting and you had that all honed in, when you have to update those 1,000 images, it's just a re-render and repopulate to all the different marketing areas that you had to update the image from. If you did the images and you did a lot of retouching to it, now you have to go render the images, figure out what I retouched, why did I retouch that, and that's just a lot of time. So if you can get it accurate right from the beginning, sorry, I'm talking too much. If you get it right from the beginning, it saves you time and money in the long run when there are updates or changes to the imagery or animations.
Especially when there's volume of images that you created.
That's a great point. No, that's a great explanation, is that, I mean, sometimes you look at these examples and you are seeing sort of one image, but now extrapolate that out to, 500 images needed for a marketing campaign, obviously. So you're sort of just showing what can be done with render passes, not necessarily that every image is going to go through, that sort of level of sweetening or enhancement.
It also depends on how the image is being used or whatever you're using. So if it's an interior shot, right, and they're going to be using it for brochures and this and that, and we know that up front, we're going to give that a little extra love just to make sure everything's popping and looking really nice. We're always going to make everything look really nice, but I'm just saying there's some instances that you will go in there with Photoshop and just pop something a little bit more just to make it that much more interesting, depending on what type of image it is.
Great. We're getting to the top of the hour, so I'll grab one more question here for you. And that is you sort of showed dropping in the updated digital twin on the police officer who had the clip on his shoulder. How do you match up the lighting for something like that to make sure that that's accurate? Is there a technique, or is it just sort of the artist's eyeball?
It's artist's eyeball. I mean, for the most part, we're dropping that in there, and then we're looking at what the photography is, and they're like, okay, look, we have there's a little bit of a highlight here. This is a blue green type of lighting, and we're looking at around the person. So we need a little bit of skin tone bouncing back into this plastic. So we're going to be adding light to a dome that has these tones in it to get the skin tone to bounce back into the device or the product. So yeah, that's where the artistry comes in. and the fine tuning.
Yeah, we're really dissecting the image, looking at little colors, little, what's bouncing off his face and, his hand, and really trying to dissect how to break down that lighting and duplicate it.
And we cut this hand out, and then we use that as a front plate inside KeyShot. And that helps to helps with the angle and sitting that puppy in there.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's great. And that kind of goes back to yesterday's presentation from Shane Spence, sometimes kind of, becoming your own client, if you will, and sort of solving some of these problems. You'll learn a lot of really cool tips and tricks. Well, thank you guys so much for everything there. Really appreciate it. It was a fantastic presentation. One last question. People were asking if there was any files that you can share with folks. Is there anything from this presentation that you could possibly, share with folks that can kind of see, how you do some of the things that you do?
I'll look. I'll look through a few things. I'm gonna have to say no, just because this is a client file, that we created for them. It's their data, so it won't be any type of KeyShot file that I could share. But if there's something in particular people are wanting to see, if they could just let you guys know, maybe we can put something together that represents what they're looking for.
Wonderful. I'm going to take a screen from you real quick, just so I can let folks know what's coming up next here. So if you can see my screen here. Well, again, thank you to Tim and Brad from KeyShot Studios. That was a wonderful presentation. Reminder, at noon today, we have Unboxing Your Render with Matt Hainsley from Bucktail Design, and then From Physical to Digital with KeyShot with Frank Teneski from Kids 2 at 2 p.m. And then come back tomorrow for our final day of KeyShot World Virtual Edition from 10, noon, and 2 p.m. You can check out the times on there. Another big thank you to our sponsors, NVIDIA, Stratasys, who will be presenting a bit tomorrow, Vario, and so we'll be talking a bit tomorrow about the new KeyVR update and the folks at Vario and their new headset. I want to again thank Render Weekly and Design Burger today for the KeyShot Pro giveaway that will be at 2 p.m. And the folks at GoPro. And so with that, any parting words for us, Brad and Tim?
Boy, be nice. No, thanks everyone for taking the time to watch this, and hopefully we were able to help or answer some of the other questions, or just give you some inspiration. And feel free to contact us. Go to our website, KeyShotStudios.com, and send us a note, and we'll be there to talk to you.
Wonderful. Well, I certainly feel very inspired. And again, if people are out there and you're inspired to make some great content this week, use the hashtag KeyShotWorld, post it out there. We'll check it out. We'll like it. We'll share it. Thank you again, gentlemen, for your time. And we will see you all today at noon.